Good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you all here. Welcome to Stewart's Opera House. My name is Melissa Wales, and I'm the executive director here, and we are thrilled to be hosting the Women of Appalachia Project Women Speak program this evening. Yeah, let's give that a round of applause. Reading glasses are such a pain up here. If this is your first time at Stewart's Opera House, please raise your hand. Let's give our new friends a huge round of applause. Also want to thank the people that are watching the live stream, either through the Stewart's Opera House website or our YouTube channel. Hello out there. The mission of Stewart's Opera House is to be a regional leader in the arts community, a center for public expression, and an economic development partner for Southeast Ohio. We acknowledge that our historic theater sits on the traditional homelands of the Shawnee, Adena, and Hopewell peoples. We recognize the ever-present systemic inequities that stem directly from this painful history of colonization and commit ourselves to acknowledging and reckoning with our role in this long history of injustice. Stewart's is committed to being more intentional in the role we play for racial justice. We also commit to being more inclusive of people historically and currently marginalized based on identity, including gender, sexuality, class, and heritage. We wish to publicly express that hate and systemic oppression have no home here. Stewart's is a nonprofit organization with over 75 live performance events annually and a dynamic arts education program for all ages. We also produce the annual Nelsonville Music Festival, which is happening Labor Day weekend, September 2nd through 4th. Details and tickets to all of our shows and events are on our website, stewartsoperahouse.org, as well as an opportunity for you to make a donation to support our mission. Please be sure to locate the emergency exits in the theater should we need to vacate quickly. Please silence your cell phones and lean back to enjoy all that tonight's artists have to bring to all of us. It is my great pleasure to introduce Carrie Gunter Seymour, the Ohio Poet Laureate. How awesome is it to have Carrie in our community and at Stewart's Opera House. Her poetry collections include Alone in the House of My Heart, A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen, winner of the 2020 Ohio Poet of the Year Award, and the chapbook Serving. Her work has been featured on Verse Daily, Cultural Daily, World Literature Today, The New York Times, and Poets.org. A ninth-generation Appalachian, she is the editor of I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, Ohio's Appalachian Voices, funded by the Academy of American Poets and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the Women of Appalachia Project's anthology series, Women Speak. Gunter Seymour is a retired instructor in the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University, the founder, curator, and host of Spoken and Heard, a partner project with Stewart's Opera House. It's a seasonal performance series with featuring poets, writers, and musicians from across the country. She's an artist in residence at the Wexner Center for the Arts and a 2022 Pillar of Prosperity Fellow for the Foundation of Appalachia, Ohio. Wow. Please welcome Carrie Gunter Seymour.
Hey, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Melissa, for that beautiful introduction. And I love that she always reminds us that we are borrowing this land. That is so meaningful to me, and I hope we never forget that. All of the staff here at Stewart's has just been so marvelous, and the volunteers as well. I know many of you coming in tonight were met by a volunteer that helped you find a seat. And we have people on the sound tonight for us. We have people at the bar. That's important that we have people at the bar. We have a lot of amazing women here today to share their work with you. I want to thank all of you in the audience for coming tonight. Without you, we would be pretty lonely up here, so thank you so much. Stewart's is my stomping ground. I'm from here. These are my people. I've heard amazing work here. I've heard the Avett Brothers, Richard Thompson, Todd Snyder, Lady Smith Black Mambanzo, Patty Griffith, who's coming up in just a couple of weeks. She's coming back tomorrow. Oh my gosh. See how the time goes? Oh, that's what happens when you're on the road. I bet Patty doesn't know what day it is either. Loretta Lynn and Willie Nelson, I have heard them thanks to Stewart's Opera House. I mean, it's amazing. There is so much history here, and for those of you who are not from this area, it's your first time here, I hope you'll do a little bit of research and learn all about it, because this place nearly burned down, and people came together, as we do as a community, and did some fundraising and built it back up, and it's gone through renovations through the years, and this current staff is just so good at just keeping it pristine and beautiful. So we're very lucky to have this historic building, to have so many wonderful events in it. The Women of Appalachia Project is proud to now be one of those events. How cool is that? I'm kind of on cloud 9 here. So the other thing that's got me really jacked up, as they say, is in 2018 we finished our season, and our new season started in March of 2019. Well, you know what that meant. So we have not had a live event since 2018. This is our first live event. We have been online. Yep, first live event. So we are very excited to see each other, even though we're not hugging each other yet. We're doing that sort of elbow thing again like we used to do and that kind of thing, but we're all just so happy to see each other, and it's just so marvelous to have everybody here, all the way from North Carolina, West Virginia, and they will tell you when they come up here. Lots of folks from Ohio. When I'm asked to describe the Women of Appalachia Project, I say this. The mission of the Women of Appalachia Project is to encourage, enrich, and empower Appalachian female artists and our communities through live and published presentations of spoken word and fine art. We are a Prindy winner, a Weatherford Award winner, state and municipal poet laureates, Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net nominees, authors of acclaimed books. Our Facebook page has 47,000 friends from all over the world. The success of this organization is based on the work of every single woman who does, has, or will someday take part, whether as a participant, a volunteer, partner, or supporter. We are a sisterhood, all for one and one for all, working toward the same goal: to lift up Appalachia and showcase her in all her glory. We don't have any need for extreme acts or protest signs or marches. Our work speaks for itself. We'll be reading tonight for this season's Women Speak. I publish one of these every year. This is volume 7, published by Sheila Nagig Editions out of Russell, Kentucky, a small one-woman press. There are copies of the anthology for sale in the gift shop downstairs after the event, along with our one-of-a-kind tote bags, which I think you'll have to go home with one tonight. This helps support our website and some of the other things that we do. Throughout the evening, some of us do have personal books that we've brought tonight to sell. This happens to be mine, but look for those down on the table near the bar. I think mine are in the gift shop if you're interested. Do remember that books make wonderful gifts. We must never forget that, okay? So, with no further ado, it is my great pleasure to present Women Speak.
Hi. Thanks to all of you, to Carrie, to Stewart's Opera House for being here tonight. My name is KB Ballantyne, and I teach in rural Appalachia in Tennessee. My great-great-great, great-great-great, and grandparents are from different places in Ohio, so I'm extremely proud to be here. I discovered WOAP through Haley at Sheila Nagig about 2 years ago. and I'm proud to be part of this group, and I'm very excited that my family is able to be here tonight. So, of roots. Light lingers on this leaf, that patch of grass, cardinal insisting from inside the honeysuckle bush. This is the moment to be still. Allow the sound of chimes and crows to lick your skin. Sink in where your blood rivers to your heart. Is this the joy, the peace we have when we lean into the sun? See the echo of moon, the blue above eclipsing the stars that sing whether we see them or not. Bees nuzzle clover, ants tracing peonies, sweetness tugged underground. And now the grumble of motors, of brakes coughs through, a siren screeching past. Even so, the pines rise, maples sugaring both bud and root, the most important labor, the most important taking place somewhere out of sight. And this is falling between. This is how it begins. This is how it begins. Leaves brushed with yellow in the trees. A hawk's shadow masking parched roses, whispers of rain ghosting the ridge. Figs bruise the yard. Sticky patches abandoned by all but bees and ants. Wrapped in these last warm days, we walk through woodlight, the rumor of autumn closing in, mountain laurel and ferns curling in blistered clusters. Fewer birds call in the sweet gum, the cedar, silence surging like a drowning tide, though 2 deer lift their heads through leaf gold. We wind our way past tulip trees, purple hearts tucked deep against the coming chill, lose the light as gray sweeps overhead, mist purling into firmer drops. One last breath before heading inside, the taste of leaving on our tongues. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Lytle Rohr, and I grew up on the Ohio River in northern Kentucky and now make my home east of Cincinnati. I come to my connection to Appalachia by way of Highland County, Ohio, where for 8 years I was wife to a man who grew up in Pike County, Kentucky. This is the first year I have been published in Women Speak. I will be reading a condensed version of my essay, The Road from Longing. The news that Paul was getting married brought longing to my door. I recognized it immediately, unlike in the past where I confused it with regret or loss. Longing. What could this yearning teach me? In my 20s, I was in a relationship with Don, who owned a farmhouse near Serpent Mound. We had a garden, we raised chickens, we kept honeybees. There was much that was good, but there was also loneliness. Don and I were not building anything together. I was simply living with him on his land. I longed for intimacy, but that was not possible in that relationship. Don had his limitations, and so did I. Some 20 years later, 2 visionaries began building a community of trees about 20 minutes east of Hillsboro on the Rocky Fork Gorge. Their purpose was to rebuild a swath of wilderness, a sanctuary. I was one of the many who stepped forward in support of this endeavor, which eventually came to be the Arc of Appalachia Preserve System. This is where I met Paul, a doll of a young man with long dark hair. He came to the sanctuary as a college intern and stayed. If only I were 25 years younger, I thought. I heard of Paul's upcoming marriage as I was volunteering at the Ark for its annual wildflower pilgrimage. I gave him my blessings and wished him well. He had been an integral part of a place I love, and now he would be moving north with his bride. His departure awakened longing in me for what I've never been able to build with a man. After completing my morning stint as part of the pilgrimage's breakfast crew, I wandered over to the house on Briar Hill, property that the Ark has available for purchase for land stewardship. It had been an old schoolhouse that a couple converted into a home to live in until the end of their days. It was shabby, seeing better days, and needed much work to be livable again. Yet, inside, I found light-filled rooms, built-in corner cabinets, scored wall panels. A stairwell rose up to a large open space on the second floor, sloped walls and all. The space would make a nice writing studio, I thought. The house called to me, but I knew the place needed more work than I could afford, and I knew I would never live there. Surprisingly, I accept that thought with ease. Still, I ached with longing. I pulled into my driveway where my house at Cape Cod sits at the end of a cul-de-sac in a suburban community in Cincinnati. Trees in the woods that line my property stirred against the blue sky. Their leaves were so young and fresh that their green color had a yellow cast in the sunlight. The grass was shaggy and thick and heavily sprinkled with dandelions. In the side yard, 2 aging white Adirondack chairs waited for me to sit a spell. The colors were as vivid as a postcard. I got out of my car and walked inside. I looked at my comfortable living room with walls my nephew painted a forest green. I walked into the kitchen. I had just helped my brothers remodel with new maple cabinets and a bamboo floor framed with dark red walls. Upstairs, in a butter yellow studio with sloped walls, I had essays waiting to be completed. And with that, longing left. What had just happened? Despite a clear plan, I could see as I walked through my Cape Cod once again that I was realizing the desires of my heart. I knew then why I was comfortable with the thought that I will never live on Briar Hill, why I could let go of that dream so easily. I did not need to buy and I was living in it.
Hello, I'm Susan Truxell Sauter from Preston County, West Virginia, where counties are probably more important than cities. I have been involved with the Women of Appalachia since 2018. The poem I'm going to read is inspired by Natalie Diaz's It Was the Animals, and my poem is titled On the Nation's News. I could take the advertisements, the vitamins needed, cleaning products, the lizard logo insurance. I could not take the stiff answer men, the same hulls featured at 5, 6, 7 p.m. news ad infinitum, him. I could take the rigid window frame, even the immovable mahogany desk. I could not take the window's glass that mirror the men who've always been in charge. I could not take their smothering dark suits The difference define fabric that covers skin color, age spots, support hose, prosthesis. I could not take the metal flagpole, slippery and polished, dark patina of history erased. I could not take the imagined future red stain, starry globules of female tissue marring the pole's hanging cloth, its white lines blood clotted at blue's edge. I could not take the deflated celebratory balloon skittering across the nation's lawn, hollow as a woman's ruptured uterus, the husk collected into a scented trash bag. For a moment, the glittering lies broke. I watched products sanitize porcelain. I could take the cleanest toilet. Yes, it's glistening porcelain. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Kendrick. I'm from Albany, Ohio, and this is my third year with the Women of Appalachia Project. I'm going to read a portion of a personal essay, What to Expect, Unplanned Pregnancy, Postpartum Anxiety, and Too Many Dead Cats. The week after the dog suffocated the cat with too much love, or at least this is how I imagine it happened, I was asleep and I do not know this for sure. I was having a cigarette on my front porch because obviously I was doing absolutely fine and needed to make no changes to my health whatsoever. I heard a high-pitched mewing coming from under the porch. An abandoned kitten, barely able to raise its little head, laid emaciated and covered in crust. I snatched it up with hopes of redeeming my most recent failure. The crust was easy to bathe away, but the poor creature had given up already. I stayed up all night trying to get water and milk in it. I tried a bottle purchased for the baby who was nearing his move-out date and tried my fingertips and palms, but about 4 a.m, it took its final breath in my lap, emptied itself of any fluids left inside. Another reminder that I would absolutely fail at being a mother. We didn't provide a home to another creature until he left my body. In the morning of his second day outside of me, while his father slept like a baby in my stiff, narrow hospital cot, I held him in my arms and stared at him while he slept. I was relieved at the ease with which he nestled so comfortably in my arms, and at the competence I showed by stabilizing his sweet head in my palm. I lifted him to my face and slowly smelled his hair, wisps of gold, barely there. He smelled like me in that he didn't smell at all. I think of the way a mother cat wastes no time licking the hell out of her kittens as soon as they return to her after having been held and loved by humans. I could do the research, but my maternal instincts, few as they are, tell me she is removing strange scent from them, rendering them hers again. He was perfect. The moment was fleeting, as all peaceful moments are, and he began stirring and wrinkling his nose for milk, or a diaper change, or because I was not comfortable. It's really hard to tell when you don't speak baby. In a panic, I moved to return him to his plastic, sterile bassinet with trembling hands so that I could determine my next move. I was alone in that room. No nurses, partner fast asleep. Why didn't I read the goddamn baby books? I thought. As I lowered him into the bassinet, I slipped, dropping him a few inches rather than laying him gently. His perfect little head bounced on the plastic, causing his perfect little face to contort and squirm for the longest second to ever pass before he screamed. I scooped him up and we cried together, and in the most beautiful case of serendipity that has not since been matched in my world, my mother walked into our hospital room and took us both into her arms. I don't remember what she said to me in that moment, but I do remember she made me laugh and let me know that it would not be the last time that I screwed something up as a mom. She knew the pain and ubiquity of this too well. A working-class single mother of 3, she perpetually had her hands full. And we were not easy kids, but that's another story for another time. I learn best by making big mistakes, and let me tell you, I get that honest. I think she saved me that day, and I never told her that. Sometimes the only reason I write is to leave behind bits of things I can never bring myself to say out loud. The dread that came with motherhood never left me. A decade later, I still have nightmares of him dying in my arms. Every time I punish him, I ache with thoughts of what my harshness might lead him to do, and whenever he is not with me, thoughts of awful ends play out in my head on loop. The anxiety and panic remained undiagnosed for about 8 years before I discovered that I had postpartum anxiety. I always understood those feelings as repercussions of my poor decisions, symptomatic of maternal ineptness, and nods from the universe that I did not deserve a healthy baby. Before becoming educated on hormones, genetic components, and the impacts of tremendous stress on my brain and body, I would say to myself, this is what you get for missing your birth control, for dropping out of school, for the almost adoption, for all the cigarettes and the pot, and it would continue ad nauseum. Thanks to a therapist who relied just as much on the power of sage and Brené Brown as she did on actual science, I am now about 98% confident that I am not being perpetually punished. I cannot emphasize enough the power that came from understanding my brain and body. My son thrives, and he doesn't know it, but he saves me too. Not in the I finally have a purpose sort of way, but there is something instilled in children that makes them a little too comfortable calling out the dishonesty and contradiction in their parents. And if we know what's good for us, we listen. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lois Spencer. I'm from Belpre, Ohio, and this is my 3rd year with WOAP. I'm going to be reading a short story, which I have made shorter for this reading, so I just called it my abbreviated version of Lily. The first day back from Christmas break, a new girl, Lily, so timid she hid her face even from Miss Brothers, appeared in my 5th grade class. Could be something like shell shock, my friend Stevie said at recess as we wandered across the frozen playground. Not surprising, since his frame of reference was World War II movies he absorbed every Saturday at the Maxwell Theater. His somber gray eyes studied snow clouds amassing in the west. You don't have to be in a war for bad things to happen, he added. His words sharpened the nagging dread tucked away in my secret thoughts. Every summer, Mom's Uncle Hank showed up at our house with garden stuff. After butchering, he came bearing side meat. In winter, he hauled in firewood. Given Daddy's sketchy job history, Mom was hard-pressed to refuse, and a cup of coffee and a slice of whatever she had baked were her gesture of thanks. And while she could slip cup and plate onto the table and skirt away without a pause, I was never quick enough. A pair of red-rimmed eyes read every detail of my body as an insistent hand reeled me in and a slurred voice coaxed, "Give Uncle Hank a little bit of sugar." My lips brushed the whiskery cheek, and I imagined myself invisible. The worst of the winter had passed, we thought, when heavy snow blew in one February afternoon. Plowing through the deceitful white and landing on my butt, I envied kids passing by on school buses. The next morning, Daddy's deep rumble penetrated my half-awake brain, his words indecipherable. Mom's question, "Who was the child?" and his answer came through clearly. I stormed the kitchen in PJs and bare feet. What about Lily? Snow clung to Daddy's Arctics. Seated at the table, Mom gathered me onto her lap and wrapped my feet in the skirt of her chenille robe, as she had when I was small. I'll tell her, Raymond. Relieved of a terrible duty, he retraced his snowy footprints to the door. Knowing I'd pester until I got the whole story, Mom laid bare the ugly facts up front. The bus had dropped Lily off the evening before. As always, once she'd cleared the step, the driver engaged the clutch, and the bus drifted back a bit before continuing up the grade. But this time, Lily wasn't on the path to her house. This time, she had landed on slippery slush and slid behind the huge, crushing wheel. 2 mornings later, a subdued group of 5th graders ascended the broad steps of the funeral home in Zanesville. A grimly polite funeral director led us to a room where a casket sat on a bier. The first group paused at the casket. Some stared as at a rare specimen, while others afforded Lily barely a glance. When it was my group's turn, my feet forgot how to move, and it took a push to propel me forward. Mom had said Lily would look like she was asleep, but she was wrong. Lily looked like the celluloid doll on my grandmother's dresser, cheeks waxy and too pink. Only the hair, freed of its pigtails, lying loose and streaked with gold, looked real. Lily's parents stood in a shadowy corner, and Miss Brothers joined them there. The mother exposed her agony for only a second before dropping her head and continuing to twist a damp handkerchief. The father's jarring voice and outsized motions could well have been Uncle Hank's. I felt my teacher's antipathy as her hand was swallowed in his. At this, his face took on the injured expression I knew so well. Don't you like your Uncle Hank, Missy? Her back against a wall, Lily's mother began to slide toward the floor. A harsh voice admonished, "Shake it off, Ellen. This is no time to go to pieces." Miss Brothers held the woman upright while the funeral director opened a folding chair. "Don't fuss over her," Lily's father growled. "It just makes her worse." The look on Miss Brothers' face would have quelled a dragon, but Lily's father didn't notice. Hungry, searching eyes scanned the room, pausing to study the prettiest girls. I willed every girl in the room invisible. Back on the bus, I scooted far over in my seat and rested my forehead on the cool, soothing glass. Kids shuffled and goofed off, almost like normal. Having visited death that afternoon, they were ready to return to the safe and familiar. As for me, I wondered if I'd ever feel safe again. Outside my window, a rash of flurries added dimension to the stained and trampled layers. In no time at all, the spot that had led to Lily's death would disappear. I thought of snowfall's persistence to hide the ugliness of this world beneath a field of white. So much damage could be done under the guise of innocence. Just before the bus pulled out, Stevie slid into the seat beside me, gray eyes heavy with thought, and we settled back for the ride home. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roberta Schultz from Wilder, Kentucky. This is my first year with Women Speak, And this is a gospel song I could use a little help on if you can catch the words. If not, sing anyway. Oh, wash my soul on the 2-in-1 Junior. Glide my sins over rippled glass. Don't snag my heart in the devil's laundromat. Don't wring me out. Make a delicate pass. I'm a long lost stranger on this crooked road, and I hope to return to my home. But the mountains loom steep before that dear land of sleep, and I feel that forever I will roam. Oh, wash my soul on the 2-in-1 Junior. Glide my sins over rippled glass. Don't snag my heart in the devil's laundromat. Don't wring me out. Make a delicate pass. All the other travelers on this mountain path wear the perma-pressed coating of their kin, but my coat is bare, unraveling into a fray and weave held together by sin. All the patchwork in the lost and found, pray for a gentle hand to dip them deeply in that water sweet that flows from a promised land. I will thank you kindly if you use that board. Dear Mama chose to keep our nighties clean, 'cause there's no mercy in a tumble dry, no forgiveness in a washing machine. Oh, wash my soul on the 2-in-1 Junior. Glide my sins over rippled glass. Don't snag my heart in the devil's laundromat. Don't wring me out. Make a delicate pass. Don't bring me out. Make a delicate pass. Thank you. 2-in-1 Junior is a lingerie washboard made of glass during the war because you couldn't use the metal. This is a song about stuff my mother always told me. My mother always told me, if wishes were horses, beggars could ride. I watched her make her wishes, but then she tossed each one aside for laundry on weekends, for groceries and the daily office grind. She'd smile at those salesmen, pack up her blues and leave her wishes behind. Oh, 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 oh. At times when I was younger, she'd sketch my portrait underneath a tree, then tell of Aunt Loretta her cautionary tale was meant just for me. Don't wear those pierced earrings. They'll stretch your earlobes and they'll ruin your chance another victim of a mating dance. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. One day my father left her. For a younger woman with pierced ears, Mom bought herself some diamonds, tiny studs to eradicate all her fears. Poke through with those changes, illuminated by refracted light. She writes her own wishes like horses, like horses, like horses through the night. Oh, 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 oh. Thank you.
I am tall enough to reach it. Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Angela O'Curran Lopez. I am actually from the Marietta area, but my father's side of the family are from central West Virginia, Preston County, actually. Woohoo. And I just have one poem to read today, the first one that I've had published with the project. I've been a long-time lurker, I guess. I went to events and took me about 4 or 5 years to get up the courage to do my own. So here is on my paper, because it's bigger and I can read it, Poverty Knob. Growing up, I never really knew that we were poor. You see, when you are 3, a single wide trailer looks like a mansion. Everyone had a bulldozer in their driveway and a couple of broke-down cars parked out back by the old chicken coop, right? I mean, at least one was a Lincoln, a 1978 Continental. Rumor has it, somewhere near the fishing pond, that my dad built a Cold War fallout shelter underground. There was a beautiful garden and a deep freeze full of deer meat that we were given in exchange for letting people hunt on our land. Corn and peas and lumpy mashed potatoes were great for Sunday dinner, but the real winner for a 5-year-old were those bologna sandwiches on soft white bread and the store-brand SpaghettiOs from the aluminum can. I don't remember ever having name-brand snacks in the kitchen, but my mom always had to have her Winston 100s, longs, not shorts, everywhere that she went. And my dad affectionately called the place where he hung the cars that he was fixing by a giant hook and chain hanging from a 100-year-old tree, and the 2-room house with no indoor plumbing, where he cut out the wall and attached a trailer through a hallway that he created himself, and 6 acres of property that he owned free and clear. Good old Poverty Knob. From the time that I was born until I turned 8 years old, when my father died, I just called it home. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shay Sanchez from Stuart, Ohio. Well, not from there, but I moved there from Jersey City. And thanks, everyone, for being here. This is my first year with Women of Appalachia, and I'm grateful to be here. My first poem is called Into These Woods I Go. Hey, I'm boot deep in snow, my toes blue and aching for this piece of land. outside the city of six-sided clay bricks, laid long before I decided to plant these wandering feet on them, before this hardened heart was stamped with country ink, tree-pearled and stitched with breathless undulations my urban blood hungers for, even on this cold, drenched day. A surprise for a kid born on concrete. Alleys and water towers, now hollows and creeks. Zooming train currents, now gusts from ridgetops. I traded my Doc Martens for these plain mud boots. The shiny windows and malls high on AC for white oaks that whisper, whisper, when I stand still for the scent of burning wood in my hair. Do you miss your past life? Would you want it back when you're grayer than these sullen winter skies? Tomorrow, I'll bury my city grime again, with one old shirt over another, a pair of pants pocked with thorn pricks, dive into these woods and go. Okay, and my second is called Firstborn. Like a moth and her lamplight, this little one looks for a bosom. Before he could barely stand on his own, legs trembling like saplings in a storm, his mouth motions toward his mama. A mandible on a muzzle smelling for the scent of home. Just minutes ago, his snout, with nostrils pulsing awake, emerged with small front hoofs, followed by the rest of him, pushed out of her, slick, lithesome, whole. I held him, my arms instantly stiffening into a poor man's palanquin, my heart softened like sunrise, tears brimming in the corners where blood and light meet. Was I just witness to a meaning of life? This is the closest I will come to becoming a mother, holding a breathing body dependent on another breathing body. His warmth, the closest thing to touching a star. My own body dependent on modern medicine to survive. She called out to him, her firstborn, this wonder of a creature, so alive, so daring. His first cry, an assertion to matter in this world. When do we lose our way from the wild? His cloven feet find ground for his first forage, mother's manna, colostrum to flourish. She bathes him with her tongue, unearthing fur fine as the powder of moth wings. He struggles to latch. I struggle to help him. Two animals trying to thrive. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Johnny McIntyre, and I'm here from Toledo, Ohio. And I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I return there quite often. This is my second year in Women of Appalachia Project, and I'm honored to be a part of it. How to protect yourself when you're young. Urinate afterwards, every time. Wash, rinse, tiptoe back to bed. Keep a journal small enough to hide. If you need to get away during the day, nobody checks the attic, under the downstairs bathroom sink, the top shelf in Grandma's bedroom closet. Keep yourself small enough to hide. Wash all fingerprints off. Keep your bruises only skin deep. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Karen Whittington Nelson, and I live in Morgan County, Ohio, on a small farm. And I've had the good fortune to be involved with the Women of Appalachia Project for about 8 years. This evening, I have a poem for you that I wrote in memory of my grandmother. Love and obey. With God and all her kinfolk squeezed into the shabby chapel, she promised to love and obey. She was here to stay. Day after year went by, and she thought she'd leave, but the babies needed their daddy, and every year brought another and another mouth to feed and bill after bill to pay. So you couldn't just up and walk away. And away went the children, grown with lives of their own, until nothing stood in her way. But the man, sitting silently in the quiet, forgotten space, asking without words, asking so softly that she strained to hear him above the hum of memories gallivanting within the rooms of the outgrown house, asking her to stay, please stay, until it was he who slipped away. And so, content, here she'll stay until with God she'll fly away. She'll take her leave, her hat and key, lock the door and fly. She'll fly away. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly Hansel, and I'm from the deep, dark hills of eastern Kentucky. So if you know Patty Lovelace, she's from nearby. Letcher County to be exact, but my ancestors have been in these mountains since before recorded time, and I'm pretty proud of that. This is my second year with Women of Appalachia, and I have one poem called Roadside Sale. Glass trinkets on fold-out tables reflect sun. A few from his wife's curio. Sometimes he finds himself able to remove a piece or two, feels her eyes still watching him like the Cooper's hawk that circles the chicken yard. He keeps meaning to shoot that thing. Sun-tanned women, more broken than they let on, circle the tables. Flip-flopped, tank-topped, pink-toenailed, Betsy would say dressed too young for their age. How much for this beveled glass? One asks. He thinks, but can't remember how much was give for it. What you got on this fiesta ware? Another asks, before he can answer the first. It's hard to see them walk off with her pretties. She'd get him, because he knows he let those women get away with a steal. But he can't stand sitting at that house. It's quiet. One can only watch Gunsmoke so many times. The new guy on the Price is Right looks out of place. No Bob Barker. He rearranges the pieces on the table to fill the holes. Maybe next Saturday he'll bring a few of the rifles from his cabinet. Sits down in Betsy's lawn chair to finish his chicken biscuit from Quick Mart. Coffee's done cooled off, even with this blazing sun. Wasn't no count anyway. Thank you.
My name is Susan Powers. This is, I believe, my 4th year with Women Speak. This is Jeff Berman, my husband's going to be accompanying me. I usually play banjo, but these songs were written on guitar. First one is called Whatever You Feel. Whatever you feel, I can't ignore. You push, you pull, and you let me go. I stared at the earrings left on a shelf. Sometimes I feel like someone else who lived a long, long time ago. I'm not the only mother who doesn't know. Come so far that I let you go. Ask for too much, it's not an equal load. I don't know how to mend this broken fence. And the line that it represents till you arrive walking through the door, carrying your childhood like an offering of gold, carrying your childhood like an offering of gold. Okay. Thank you. This next one is called Letters from Eden, and this is inspired by Edenborn, which is a company town in Fayette County, southwest Pennsylvania. medicine in a bottle, don't cry tonight. Letters from Eden will still arrive. All the love from long ago will make things right. There's a light on in Eden born tonight. The light's still on in Eden born tonight. The light is on in Eden born tonight. There we go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Barbara Marie Meny. I currently live in Talmadge, Ohio, but I was born and raised along the Ohio River in Parkersburg, West Virginia. When I was 15, my family relocated to the other side of the river. We lived in Cadiz, Ohio, and later in Wintersville, Ohio, and I lived and worked in Zanesville, Ohio for a while. My parents, grandparents, and many generations before them were born and raised in Gilmer County, West Virginia. And this is my third year with the Women of Appalachia Project. My poem is entitled Blackwater River Canyon. Everything was in black and white then, except the keepsakes living on in my consciousness, like fragile 8mm film moving through a hot and noisy projector, breaking at the most inopportune moment. Isolated in my developing understanding, sitting on an immense boulder down in the yawning canyon, surrounded by stately pines and towering oaks, leaves turning bloody in the Christmas of autumn. Hypnotized by the changing hues and the fury of the white water erupting over the worn rocks, crying into the amber stream colored by the crayons of spruce and hemlock trees. I'm overwhelmed by an unfamiliar sense of sanctuary. A turkey buzzard ripples across the tides in the dusky sky, percolating across the Allegheny Mountains. The smell of woodland muskiness titillating my nose with the perfume of darkness. A lone cardinal hollers for its mate, and maybe for me too. Shapes constantly changing as the pulsating water washes over jagged rocks, poking their heads out like drunken sailors, moving with the ripples. Stretching a quivering hand into the frothy water and taking out a spent .22 shell, brass luminous in the paling light. I bring it to my mouth, savoring the restorative water. Imperceptible droplets of moisture climb into the breeze, washing against my face like tears of absolution, momentarily getting outside of myself to experience freedom. Thank you so much.
Hi all, I'm Bonnie Proudfoot. I live here in Athens County. Grateful to have been connected to Women of Appalachia for, I think, at least 5 years. I should know that by now. Grateful to Stewart's Opera House for making Athens County so wonderful. I have 2 poems tonight. I used to live in West Virginia before I moved to Athens. This one's set in West Virginia. It's called What Doesn't Kill You. Weeks after the surgery, after the sling came off, and after the stitches started to dissolve in layers of epidermis under her breast, the radiation began. After that, chemo for a year, as soon as she can take it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, say some, probably folks who never watched this kind of cure or watched a body be ravaged like this. We live in Cancer Valley, Teflon in the water, cattle belly up. No one wants to admit exactly how all this shit got into everything, but now it is seeping into the pores of friends and family, and hurt expands from the streams to the mountaintops where we really see the scene of the crime. Giant drills buzz in the night, and someone's tap drips poison. It is a growing game of chance, but we are playing with a rigged deck. The dealer holds all the cards. On the way to Fairmont, leaves fall and Route 50 burns. License plates from Texas and Oklahoma blast past. Under the earth, the ground shakes. Just beyond, the land is pocked and cracked like a scar. What doesn't make you stronger can also kill you. It will not be pretty. At the Shell station, everyone mentions the pipeline as if it is the yellow brick road. My second poem set here on my back porch in Athens County. It's called Doves. Outside my window this morning, snow piles up on porch rails and trees. The only motion is a pair of doves perched under the eaves. Thin black beaks, clay-colored round heads pressing together like a valentine. Their coo, coo, coo ocarina calls set off against a backdrop of silent snowflakes. If they're the same pair as the last 3 years, they've arrived early, mid-February instead of April. But maybe this year they're trying to get it right. They've had a run of bad luck. No postman stork delivering baby doves. Instead, clutches of eggs that refuse to hatch, or tiny naked chicks that don't make it. Long after the wrens, flycatchers, and robins build their nests, dart to the lawn and back with to a cluster of open mouths, after those other fledglings stand in a little bird conga line on the porch railings and work up the nerve to take first flights, this pair of doves is still in phase 1, trading shifts, nest guarding, egg sitting, unflinching and inscrutable as Buddhas. Their ruby eyes meet mine as I head outside. I could climb a stepladder, chase them off, clean out the nest, but I can't bring myself to break it to them. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they don't see the writing on the wall, or they could care less about the other birds. They stay with the thing that matters most, and I wish I was more like that. After all, there isn't a day that doesn't have its share of glaring headlines, dire conclusions, so many wrecking balls aimed at every plan. Even today, disaster hangs like the wind chill factor, and here they are, innocent optimists with work to do, all hopes and feathers and dreams. Thank you.
Hi, I'm CJ Farnsworth. I'm from Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm just going to read one poem. Severstall reopens the Yorkville plant in time for Christmas. My father worked, when he wasn't laid off, for Wheeling Pittsburgh Steel. He wrapped leftovers in silver paper and carried his Charvac Stanley, full and hot, and promised once to take me inside his crane cab 100 feet up to see the mammoth fires and molten steel. One time, while opening a can of corn, he showed me how his knuckles were becoming calcified and cyclopean. Then made me listen to Joe Cocker and Janis Joplin, and once a Shakespeare play, and another time his buddy. He always had a buddy doing this or that. Sing knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. We listened to that knocking for months, riding along Route 2 at night when the mills were lit like wedding halls or fairy forests, thousands of gold lights raining and bursting in and out of the river. All the while, machines pressing ingots, forcing impurities to the top. Machines that roared and raged below my father, who sat on an inflatable orthopedic donut. Walking through a hotel lobby in Naples last December, a man brushed my arm with his newspaper, and it became that bright and hot.
Hello. What a great night this is. Thank you for being here, and thank you to Stewart's Opera House. I'm Valerie Neiman. I was born at the headwaters of the Allegheny and lived a good portion of my life in northern West Virginia at the headwaters of the Monongahela, and now I live in North Carolina. My only connection to Ohio really is my dad was a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. Note left for the woman buying this house. You might want to know that after 3 barren years, the purple irises bloomed this spring, just before their useless toes might have been yanked from the earth. One neighbor has cats, the other kids. The bushes along the fence are blueberries, but you won't get a one unless you net them. Birds are clever and relentless. The patio door has been replaced twice. Daylilies will trumpet your arrival, but wild ginger will conceal itself, as is its nature. The dogtooth violets will be gone. Be careful. The ramp to the shed is treacherous after rain. Some things will be imponderable. Doors on 2 of the bedrooms won't latch. The casings are cracked where they were wrenched open. Spider lilies will surprise you coming out of nowhere. The walls have been painted beige, sealing in the cries and curses. The carpet is new. Wait to dig. Buried lines and conduits cross the yard, and some things won't have risen yet.
It's really a bummer to go last, because you just hear so much beautiful work, and then you feel like, it's really hard. But I am going to share a couple more poems with you, one of my own and another. And this first one is my own from the book. It's called The House, the Barn, the Sheep, the Chickens. Problem was she felt too much or not at all. A practiced yearning that had no name. Her kids grown, gone, 40 years behind her. Fields rutted, shutters listless, the barn propped and cockeyed. All those young bride prayers wasted. Creatures like sheep, used to traveling, know about moving on. Guided by the compass of their will, boredom a kind of armor. desire a grassy knob worth dying for. How utterly a body is overruled by heartache, an affliction that can't be outrun. Outside, red oaks thrash, tangled in root and bird song and whatever might fall from the sky. Her last undoing was to set her sassy banties free to peck and roam, scratch out a destiny of their own. Thank you. Thank you. And this very last poem this evening I'd like to share is in memoriam for a dear friend of mine, Susan Shepard, from Parkersburg, West Virginia. Susan was a Delaware and Shawnee descendant, and further descended from some of West Virginia's earliest settlers, and she was an amazing writer. And I promised her daughter that we were not going to forget Susan, and so everywhere I go, I read one of Susan's poems. And this is titled Wabash in the Alleghenies. Where I come from is a place where coon dogs drag their chains, like beggars rattling a tin cup, where mountains' twilight smoke like an old woman on a stoop. I come from a place where cows turn sad, sublime faces toward passing cars, as we dream of escaping fenced-in meadows, where clots of blackberries sweeten the edges of the woods and sate our pangs of hunger. I come from a place where lye soap and hog bones float up in dingy bucket water, where the rinsed sunlight of a steadied heaven never reaches the deepest hollers. Where I come from, broken stars hide like thieves inside the dark boughs of cedar, and icy waters rush over the dam like a widow's hair. Susan Shepard. This beautiful book, all these beautiful voices. Will you stand up, ladies, for some applause? So there are 80 plus women's voices in this book, and there are 21 fine artists as well. So I do hope you'll consider leaving with a copy tonight. Remember, a lot of our readers tonight have books of their own downstairs for sale, and they're going to meet you down there. I really want to just say again, thank you so much. Just this Stewart's Opera House, this beautiful facility, the staff and the volunteer staff that just work so hard, and obviously on weekends and night times as well. Thank you so much for having us in, and thank you all, our amazing audience, for being with us tonight. God bless and keep you safe. Thank you.